A supposed contradiction often raised by skeptics, centers on the day Christ was crucified. The Synoptic Gospels known as Matthew, Mark and Luke state that Christ was crucified on Friday, the day after Passover Eve. John, on the other hand, seems to imply that Christ was crucified the day before, on Thursday. We have decided to quote the late Dr. Gleason L. Archer's entire response from his book, Encyclopedia of Bible Difficulties, since he does a masterful job of showing that no real contradiction exists between these accounts. The uniform impression conveyed by the Synoptic Gospels is that the crucifixion took place on Friday of Holy Week. If it were not for John 19:14, the point would never have come up for debate. But John 19:14 says according to the New American Standard Bible, "Now it was the day of preparation, Parascue, for the Passover. It was about the 6th hour. And Pilate said to the Jews, Behold, your king." The NIV suggests a somewhat less difficult handling of the apparent discrepancy.
It was the day of preparation of the Passover. It was about noon. Here is your king, Pilate said to the Jews.
This latter translation takes note of two very important matters of usage. First, the word Parascue had already by the 1st century AD become a technical term for Friday, since every Friday was the day of preparation for Saturday, that is, the Sabbath. In modern Greek the word for Friday is Parascue. Second, the Greek term to Pascha, literal meaning of the Passover, is taken to be equivalent to the Passover week. This refers to the 7-day feast of unleavened bread, the Maso, that immediately followed the initial slaughtering and eating of the Passover lamb on the evening of the 14th day of the month Abib, which by Hebrew reckoning would mean the commencement of the 15th day, right after sunset. The week of Maso, coming right after on the hills of Passover itself, during which Maso were actually eaten, along with the lamb, bitter herbs, etc. Very naturally came to be known as Passover week, extending from the 15th to the 21st of Abib, inclusively. Arndt and Gingrich state, this Passover was followed immediately by the fast of unleavened bread on the 15th to the 21st. Popular usage merged the two festivals, and treated them as a unity, as they were for practical purposes. It was unnecessary to insert a specific term for week for it to be understood as such. Therefore, that which might be translated literally as the preparation of the Passover must in this context be rendered Friday of Passover week. It turns out, therefore, that John affirms just as clearly as the Synoptics that Christ was crucified on Friday, and that his sacrificial death represented an antitypical fulfillment of the Passover ordinance itself, which was instituted by God in the days of the Exodus, as a means of making Calvary available by faith to the ancient people of God even before the coming of Christ. Note that in 1 Corinthians 5:7 Jesus is referred to as the Passover lamb for believers.
Get rid of the old yeast, so that you may be a new unleavened batch, as you really are. For Christ our Passover lamb has been sacrificed.
The statement of E.C. Hoskins on John 19:14 is very appropriate here. The hour of the double sacrifice is drawing near. It is midday. The Passover lambs are being prepared for sacrifice, and the Lamb of God is likewise sentenced to death. It simply needs to be pointed out that the lambs referred to here are not those that were slaughtered and eaten in private homes. A rite Jesus had already observed with his disciples the night before, Maundy Thursday. But the lambs to be offered on the altar of the Lord on behalf of the whole nation of Israel. For the household observance on the evening of the 14th of Abib, see Exodus 12:6. For the public sacrifice on the altar, see the following. These were all known as Passover sacrifices, since they were presented during Passover week. Thus it turns out that there has been a simple misunderstanding of the phrase Parascue to Pascha that has occasioned such perplexity that even Guthrie deduced an original error, for which he had no solution to offer. The various ingenious explanations offered by others that Christ held his personal Passover a night early, knowing that he would be crucified before the evening of the 14th. That Christ and his movement held to a different calendar, reckoning the 14th to be a day earlier than the calendar of the official Jerusalem priesthood. Or that he was following a revised calendar observed by the Essenes at Qumran. All these theories are quite improbable and altogether unnecessary. There is no contradiction whatever between the John and the Synoptics as to the day on which Christ died. It was Friday,